Hi, I'm at the Gambler's General Store in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the topic of our talk today is how to win $1 million gambling in a casino. Now, this is not something that anyone can do. It takes a special kind of person, and we have a special kind of person with us today, and that person is Jean Scott. And Jean, you are known as the Queen of Comps. You've written many books. You've appeared on some Travel Channel specials. You're on 48 Hours, and you didn't start till later in life, sort of this gambling adventure, but you have been very successful at it. And if anyone can tell us how to win $1 million gambling in a casino, it's probably you. So let's start at the beginning and tell us how you actually got involved in casino gambling to begin with.
I didn't get involved in gambling until I was in my 50s. Before that, I'd been a high school English teacher, not a math teacher. And the first time Brad and I went to a casino, it was in Las Vegas. We had a 3-day trip to Las Vegas. And some people think, when they think about how successful we've been, that we were very successful gamblers from the very beginning. Nothing could be further from the truth. I had read someplace that a smart gambler played the tables, and so I played blackjack that first visit, except I not only didn't count cards, I didn't even know basic strategy. Well, long and short, eventually we lost all of the money that we had brought for our vacation. But the thing is, we had such a good time that on our airplane ride back to our home in Indiana, we said to each other, we want to do this again. And I pointed out that we didn't have $3,000 to do that every little whip snitch. So that started me thinking, what do I do when I want to learn any other subject? I study it. And that's what I did. I started studying gambling.
Okay, so you started with blackjacks, and when you went back, did you continue to play blackjack, or you started to shift to other games?
We played blackjack for about the first 4 or 5 years, and here's what was funny. Brad would leave the blackjack table. I thought he was leaving because the count was getting bad, which you're supposed to do.
So, no, I'm sorry, but so you did learn to count cards in blackjack?
Yes, we did.
All right.
And we weren't totally successful. We broke about even. So when we were playing blackjack, counting cards, he would leave the blackjack table and be gone much too longer than just a short bathroom break. And so I would go look for him, and he would be at a video poker machine. And I said, well, how can you do this? You know, we want to be at a place where we can have an advantage over the casino by counting cards. And he says, oh, but it's so much fun. He was just playing nickel video poker, but he says it's so much fun. Well, after we would take breaks together, he would say, come play. And we started playing blackjack at the old Westward Ho. And we would go over to the Stardust, and he was playing a nickel video poker machine over there where you could win a car, you know. So he took me over there, and I noticed that there was something called a slot club. And I said, well, we ought to join that. And he said, well, it probably costs money to join that. And I said, no, it says free. And that was over 30 years ago. And that was the start of learning what to do. Then I started reading, and slowly we realized, when I learned more, that the casinos were giving more comps to the machine players than they were the table players, as they had done for years. And so within 5 years, we had transferred our attention and interest and study to playing video poker, and we've been doing that for the last 25 years.
Well, now, I know that I seem to remember the first time I heard about you was about 20 years ago, and Anthony Curtis, who publishes the Las Vegas Advisor magazine, which is a monthly newsletter about Las Vegas, he wrote an article that mentioned this little old lady from Indiana who went to the casinos in Las Vegas, and she was able to stay for 30 nights in a row, and she didn't pay 1 cent to stay for 30 nights in a row. And I believe that's how I first found out about you. And then you have a book called Frugal Gambler, which was the first book you came out with. How did that develop? Was that as part of that adventure in Las Vegas? And I know you're on 48 Hours. You won a car. Dan Rather, the CBS newsman, dubbed you the Queen of Comps. Can you give us a little background on how that developed?
Well, the first thing is, once people saw that we were getting to go, they knew we weren't rich. So they figured if we could go to Vegas, we were both still working. I was doing substitute teaching. Brad worked for the government. We didn't make big money. And they knew we weren't rich, but we kept going to, like every other month, kept going to Las Vegas or some other casino area. And they would say, how can you do this? And we said, well, we've learned how to play the game, good games with the right strategy, and we can make a little money on this. And they would say, well, I want to do that, you know. They would say, tell me how you do that. And what they wanted was a silver bullet, 25 words or less. Well, I said, okay, I'll write a book, The Frugal Gambler, and I'll say everything about what we do, how we do it, you know, and then people will quit bugging me, and then I can go back to being just a gambler because I had retired from school teaching then, and I didn't want to get another job. Well, what happened is I learned more and more, and so 4 books later, I'm still trying to give people that 25-word or less silver bullet, but now it takes 4 books.
Now, you were featured on 48 Hours with Dan Rather, and again, he's the one who dubbed you the Queen of Comps. And I seem to remember that show. You were not doing well. They were following your adventures in the casino. I think you were playing Deuces Wild. They're trying to get entries for a promotion. And then all of a sudden, what you get? You got lucky in the last 20 minutes or so? What happened?
No, what happened is, here we're going to be on national TV saying how successful gamblers we are, and we are losing more than we had ever lost in that short period of time. They were there for almost a week, and they were following us around, and I was losing. And but we were earning entries, and this was entries for a drawing for a car. Well, their time, they left. We were still staying in Vegas a little longer. The day after they left was the drawing. By this time, I had worked so hard and so forth. I had the flu or something. I was sicker than a dog, and I didn't want to go down for the drawing, but you had to be there to win. This was at the Stardust, and I had a lot of entries. Brad and I both had a lot of entries in there. So I dressed and put a hat on so nobody would recognize me, and because I was too sick to comb my hair, and went down. And it was unbelievable. The first ticket they drew out was mine, and I won the car.
So that was probably one of your biggest wins at that point.
Yes, and we were just quarter players then. That was the big thing. Now, we've had much bigger wins than that. We've won that much in one day because we started with quarters. We always took all of our profit and plowed it right back into our bankroll so we could play higher denominations with a higher profit potential. But at that time, to win a car playing quarters, we were thrilled to death. I felt better, even though I had the flu. It almost cured me immediately.
All right, so you started as a quarter player, low rollers, and you were successful at it, and gradually you increased your stakes up to $1, and probably now, what are you up to nowadays?
And the key word that we need to talk is we did this very gradually. We've been playing over 30 years now, so this is not an instantaneous thing. It's a long, slow, torturous path. Now we sometimes play as much as $125 a hand.
Wow.
Because what happened is, used to be there was only one single line. And so even if you played $5 single line, that was just $25 a hand. Now you can play $1.10 play with the multi-lines. So we could go up the denominational level and make even more money. And particularly in the last few years, as we were getting older and our energy level kind of went down, we didn't want to play. Used to be we would play six hours or something a day while we were visitors and we were playing for our room, and we were young and we liked playing. As we got older, particularly after we moved to Las Vegas and we were here all the time, we could play any time we wanted to, and we would only want to play 2-3 hours, 4 kind of at the limit. Well, we wanted to go up in denominations so we would have the same profit potential, and that's the reason. So we went from low rollers to what some people call us high rollers. I guess most people would think if you bet $125 on one hand that you're, and sometimes we go even higher than that you're a high roller. For us, it was such a gradual progression, and our bankroll was bigger, so proportionately, now, not only did our wins get bigger, our losses got bigger for one day, for instance. When you're playing that much, if you run bad, so you have to kind of get used to that upper denomination. It's fun to be when you're winning, but if you lose 10,000 in one day or 20,000 in one weekend, most people would say that was not fun.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of your bigger wins and some of your bigger losses. I know your husband, Brad, had one day, I believe it was at the Palms. He was playing 100 play quarter video poker. Mm-hmm. And what happened?
Well, simple. The first hand I was playing, we take turns playing when we're playing that high of a level. His first hand, he was dealt a royal for $100,000. In other words, $1,000 royals.
Right. So it's $1.25 a hand times 100 hands. So you're betting $125, and he was dealt a royal flush. So he got 4,000 coins for a royal flush, which is $1,000. Times 100 hands, $100,000. So right. That was one of the big wins. And also, I know you were in a slot tournament. As a higher level player, you get invited to these special events. And one of which was a $1 million slot tournament, was it?
Yes, this was at Caesars. This was a buy-in tournament. We went in with another couple. You had to pay $10,000 to enter this tournament. What we liked about it is if you played enough, you got the $10,000 back, whether you won or lost. Of course, there was a risk involved. There's always a risk involved in gambling. But they paid $5,000, we paid $5,000. We had the entry fee, and then we divided up our play so that we played. Oh, I said we had to play enough and give our firstborn. We had to play a lot to get that $10,000 back, but we did it. Brad was playing the tournament, so when we won it, it was Brad who got the money, the $500,000. And since we were in there with another couple, we kept the $250,000 and we gave them $250,000. That was only fair. Now, a lot of people suddenly says, well, we want to be your friend. We could have had a lot more friends at that point.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I want to make a point about that. You ask about the big things that we have done, the big jackpots, and people are always wanting to hear about that. If I wrote a book about the experiences we've had, which I have, but they usually are called The Frugal Gambler or something like that, I would say how to win $1 million working really hard for 30 years. And that's exactly my story. Yes, we've had some big hits. We've had some very bad losing days. I remember one weekend we went down to Laughlin. This was back when they had a really good game that was over 100%, so we had a good advantage. Plus,
we're talking video poker now.
Yes.
All right.
And we lost $20,000 that weekend.
Wow.
So that's one of the things that you have to think about. If you want to go up from quarters, the wins will be bigger, but can you take the losses? There are people that had a bigger bankroll than us. They can't do that. They don't have the iron stomach that it takes. And just recently, 2 years ago, we had our second best game or year ever. In fact, we didn't have any big jackpots. We just won a lot of royals and so forth. Then the following year, last year, we had the worst year that we had ever had. Playing video poker, volatility is the name of the game.
Well, a lot of people ask me about gambling, and a lot of them say, oh, it would be a fun, exciting thing to do. But I always tell them it's a very, very difficult thing to do to become a professional gambler. And just certain people who practice at it and study it are usually the ones that are most successful. Every once in a while, someone will get lucky and win $1 million. But they win it just because they're lucky, not because they've had a lot of success in studying. But just want to ask you well, actually one more thing. What it's like for you in Las Vegas. I mean, do you go every day and gamble? Do you just wait until the casino sends you a promotional opportunity, and is that the only time you gamble? Or is it more difficult nowadays to find? When you first started, I think there were a lot more positive expectation machines, where you could just playing the machine by itself. There were many machines around, especially on the Strip and in the locals casinos, where you could actually play a machine that had a return of close to 100% or over 100%. Is it harder nowadays to find those machines? And how do you live your life as a gambler in Las Vegas?
Well, first off, I never have considered ourselves professional gamblers, meaning we don't make our living at that. We always use skill. We almost never, back in the old days, there were better games. So if we wanted to be in the mood to go gamble, we could find one that was positive expectation. Well, when you live in Vegas, number one is you have life that interferes. You have dental appointments, medical appointments, particularly when you get old like we are. We do not go to the casino every day, and people are surprised at that. One of the common questions is, well, I guess you go to casino every day. No, I go to the casino about 3 times a week. Brad goes more because he sometimes goes just to pick up free play, which is part of our profit potential. We do not play just because we're in the mood to play. At the first of every month, we have a calendar out. I get all the mail out. Well, we have to play on this day because they're giving 5 times points. We have to be on this day because we have to pick up free play that they've sent us and that sort of thing. It's a very structured thing. And some people say, well, I wouldn't want to do that. Well, if you come as a visitor, you don't maybe get to play that much. You want to play all the time. You don't get enough sleep. You don't even take a bath often enough. You just want to be playing all the time. When it's there, you don't play every day. And if you're an advantage player, then you only play when you can find a play. And nowadays, you would not be able to find an advantage play every day. I don't care if, well, there are a few quarter plays where you could always play and you would be at an advantage. But in most cases, you have to choose your days.
All right, now, so the subject of our video is how to win $1 million gambling in a casino. So you are either at that point or approaching that point, and what we wanted to do was get some tips from you for the average person who likes to go to casinos and have fun in casinos, how to improve their game to be a long-term winner, and how maybe one day they can learn how to win $1 million in a casino. So what kind of tips do you have for us?
All right. Well, I have 3 things I want to cover here. First off, your goal when you're in a casino should never be to win. You'll be a happier gambler if you look at your goal and say, yes, I want to win. I'd love to hit a jackpot, but I like the bells and whistles. I like the comps that I get and so forth. It's entertainment, and that's the casino, that's what the casino's giving you, is entertainment. And if you do lose, that's just the price you're paying for entertainment. Just like you go to a movie, you have to pay a price to get in. The second thing is you have to look at your budget, your gambling bankroll budget.
Oh, excuse me one second. Let's go back to the first one. In your Frugal Gambler book, I think you have a chapter, and this is something that I tell people all the time. If they'll say, "Oh, well, how'd you do in the casino?" I said, "Oh, I broke even." I said, "Oh, well, that's no good. What good is that?" And I said, "Well, I'm very happy if I break even in a casino because I haven't lost any money, and I know the casino has tracked my play, and they'll be sending me offers based on my play. They may send me a room offer, a food offer, a show offer, a free play to play on the machines." So that's one of the things that I know that you stress, especially with that chapter. And I'm sorry, did I have it correct? Breaking even is good? Is that what it was?
In the first Frugal Gambler book, one of the chapter titles is "Breaking Even is a Wonderful Thing."
There you go. Wonderful.
And actually, when we first started, we didn't know enough to do that. This came a few years later. First, we just wanted to have enough money and go more often. And then as we learned more, and I'm going to go into that in my other points, then our goal was to win, not lose on the machines, and just enjoy the comps. All right, the second thing, though, is that you'll have to consider is your bankroll. There is a limit. You shouldn't be taking money, the proverbial baby's milk money, or your rent money, or your mortgage payment, and so forth. You can't have the first thing, fun in a casino, if you're losing money that should have gone for your living expenses or maybe even retirement and so forth. So I'm trying to keep the idea that you want entertainment and fun. So you have to consider your bankroll. So then that brings to number 3. And this is why we're sitting here and we have won more money than anybody would ever believe. Only the IRS knows. How do you get from having fun and it fitting your budget? Most people do not have the budget, the discretionary entertainment income to come to go to casinos as often as they would really like to go. So we didn't either. That first time we lost $3,000 we had taken for this vacation. We lost it all. But the rate, we weren't making much money then. We wouldn't be able to go back for a year till we saved up $3,000. That wasn't satisfactory to us. We wanted to go right away. So how did we get to that point, to the point now? We studied, research. I read everything that came out on the games that I played or general things. That's how you go from not knowing anything, which we didn't, realizing we didn't have the money to go very often, but wanting to research, study, and to this very day, I spend more time scouring the internet, reading, checking with other people what they're doing and so forth. I do spend more hours doing that than actually gambling. And that's how you might. It's not as easy to make $1 million as you used to be able to, but you can certainly lose less. A lot of people are quite happy to even lose. They have a bankroll that they can add to every month or whatever, and they just want to lose less. The less you lose, it's not even the winning, it's the less you lose, then the more often that you can come. And here's what's funny. Breaking even is a wonderful thing, and for 30 years we've lived the life of a millionaire, even if we weren't making $1 million at the time, because of the comps. And especially as we went up, we had this luxurious life, big suites, gourmet rooms, more gourmet meals than our arteries could take.
And all those cruises. They give you cruises
And
all the
cruises,
time.
yeah. In fact, we could take a cruise every other month. We don't even take cruises anymore because we're tired of them, you know. People should get to that point where you're tired of all this luxury. The last thing I would like to say here is it's kind of funny. Remember I told you that first we didn't know anything and our goal was just to have more fun, and then we learned a little bit more, and our goal was just to break even on the games and enjoy all the comps. 30 years later, we're going back to that because, number one, our health is not quite as good as it was. We're getting older, our energy level, and the games are not as good. So we're kind of back to breaking even on the games and enjoying the comps. It's kind of full circle. And that is a worthy goal at any point in your gambling career.
All right, well, that's very good. Now, you've made your primary success through video poker. If people want to learn more about video poker, well, I guess which would be how to choose the right machines, how to use the proper strategy, what kind of information sources of information can you suggest for them?
Well, remember I said there's no 25-word or less silver bullet. And so I wrote these books. I wrote The Frugal Gambler. Then I learned a lot more as we went up the ladder. And I just always had more ideas, so I wrote more Frugal Gambling. And
well, let me ask you this. I understand that you are updating these books.
Yes, I am updating this summer. They will both be brand new editions, and it's unbelievable. If you know anything about gambling, I had to change so much because they were written 8, 9 years ago. Things have changed so much. Now, they're basically the same books, but they have a lot of new information telling you about the changes and so forth.
Okay,
both of those.
So those will be out in the summer of 2016.
Right. And then, if you make a lot of money, you might have tax implications. So I wrote a book, Tax Help for the Gambler. And then I wrote something called the Frugal Video Poker Scouting Guide, which is a little chart that if you do play video poker, you can take this into the casino with you, have it in your pocket or purse, and it will tell you which games have the better pay tables. Because, you know, now there are hundreds and hundreds of pay tables, and you might say, how do I find a good game? This is, it wasn't out there, there was nothing out there, there's some things online, but you needed something when you were actually scouting the casinos. So I'm probably most proud of this little book, but instead of a 25 or less silver bullet, there are literally thousands of things you can do. And I put all of them in my books to lose less money.
All right, Gene Scott, if someone wants to learn more information about you and your products, where would they go to do that?
I have a website, queenofcomps.com, and that would also lead you to my blog, which is on the Las Vegas Advisor website. And I write in the blog once or twice a week with up-to-date information, keep people that are already gambling up on some of the new advantage plays or the problems of gambling. And it also tells about our lifestyle. We're still gambling, just not as much as we used to.
All right. Well, Gene Scott, thank you very much for spending time with us today.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I always love to talk about gambling. You know that, Steve.
Oh, yeah, me too. Thanks.